אדירהו, יבנה ביתו בקרוב, במהרה, במהרה, בימינו בקרוב, אל בני ביתך בקרוב. בחור הוא, גדול הוא, יבנה ביתו בקרוב, במהרה, במהרה, בימינו בקרוב, אל בני ביתך בקרוב. דגול הוא, הדור הוא, יבנה ביתו בקרוב, במהרה, במהרה, בימינו בקרוב, אל בני ביתך בקרוב. ותיקחו זכאיהו, יבנה ביתו בקרוב, במהרה, במהרה, בימינו בקרוב, אל בני ביתך בקרוב, בני ביתך בקרוב.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our communal Seder. We have guests, all surprises, and surprises to me too, which is a beautiful thing. Some from the past, some of who are colleagues and friends of mine, some who I've never met, but tonight we celebrate together. Our Seder will be in the general order that the Seder encompasses, with there are 15 sections that I will call out in their order. For the sake of brevity, we will today capsulize some of the steps in order to have a look at some of the variations of various Seder traditions. The Passover story is about the journey from slavery to freedom, from the terrors of being subjugated to being a person or a people that owns their history. We are taught that not only did we each personally become free on the night of the first Passover, but that we must again make the journey from slavery to freedom each year on that night. The declaration, "All who are hungry, come and eat," is a reminder that even while there is a feast in front of us, our neighbors are hungry. Our journey to freedom must include our neighbors. We can never be free until each and every one of us is free within us, within ourselves. It's with this sense of how it feels to be enslaved that we invite all those who are hungry, all who lack whether food, water, or freedom, or spiritual nourishment or community, to sit at our table. We invite them not just to eat, but to hear and tell with us the narrative of the people who took themselves from a place of despair and constraint toward a place of hope and expansiveness. I want to recite a poem first by a young teenager from Kharkiv, Ukraine. He wrote this as one of the students in a school in 1920, in a Hebrew school in the town of Kharkiv in the Ukraine. Winter is over, the cold is gone, the universe is filled with joy, the southerly winds slowly blow, repairing a gloomy soul. Young sun, spring sun shining in the sky, casting a wealth of light on the earth, blinding eyes, The naked trees are awakened again. The noisy city dawns a new face. Everything is joyful, alive, and glowing. The spirit of spring washes over all. Happy are the tall buildings crowned by those beautiful high mountains. Still there remains a glassy film of ice over the swamps, over the streams. Still the trees are bare, the leaves not yet budded, the birds not yet returned, singing their joyful songs. But spring is already felt in every corner and square. The sky has changed, the sea foam is different, and spring is already seeping into the depths of the soul. This is the world. This is the heights of creation. Everything is alive, fresh, happy. Everything returns to life. This was a poem, as I said, by Daniel Prachabmek of Kharkiv in 1920 in one of their many yeshivot in that city. This is the Hebrew that he wrote, Abar Choref, the passing of winter. This is a painting by a boy in the same school on the shores of the Dnieper River, which is a river that goes, I believe, from the Belarus all the way to the Black Sea. This is a beautiful poem by Eliezer Aharonov, writing specifically in Hebrew about the preparations for Passover. In our house, work is at full speed. All the members of our household are preparing for the great holiday, the feast of the redemption of Israel, which is Passover. My father takes the Haggadot from the closet. My mother and aunt turn over the rooms, clean the tables, chairs, and beds. I wanted to help them, but mother shoos me out for a walk. I went outside. The spring air was clear. The sky was pure, and as if the whole world has cleansed itself to meet the great feast. And here is my sister calling me for lunch. How hard it was for me to leave the shore and go home, but I comfort myself for this thought. Maybe my mother would let me go out after lunch. I went home, ate, and went out again. It's hard to describe what pleasure I felt in that moment. Before we begin the wonderful journey, we still have a few days to prepare. I believe it's Monday. So we have 4 days, and we need to buy some really, really good wine. I know someone by the name of Chaim Chassid, that's his name. He owns a wine cellar. You probably know him too. He's a friend of mine, and some of you might know him also. His name is Solomon Rabinovich. So he told me about this guy, Chaim Chassid. He lives in Mazepevke. And so we're going to now go down and see the wine cellar, and it's not exactly here. So I think it's one block further. Oh, here we are at Chaim Chassid's wine cellar, along with his son-in-law, Eli Noah in Mazepevke. You can see the barrels, and you can see Kasher LePesach. Obviously, he's selling the wine for Passover. These, obviously, people are bargaining for the wine from Helm. Throughout the year, his wine cellar is open to the town's big shots. But on the eve of Pesach, Chaim and his entire family, including the wine cellar and all its wine, are held in bondage to the children of Israel in Mazepevke. You heard, of course, of Mazepevke. As you know, it's a town where people love to prattle, to gossip, to chatter. If the Jews there start blabbing about you, may God himself come and help. To get a sense of what happened at the exodus of the Jews from Egypt, please come down to Chaim Chassid's cellar when the Mazabevka Jews buy wine for the 4 cups of Seder. All year long, Jews manage to survive, thank God, without wine. They make kiddush over challah, drink water from the stream, but with the approach of Pesach, they get spoiled and pampered. They prepare themselves to become kings at the Seder as tradition prescribes. Now they think they're sophisticated connoisseurs and experts in wines. At this season, plain wine is nothing but junk. For Pesach, people demand a vermouth, and a fine one at that, from the best vineyards. But hold it, a plain vermouth is junk too. It should have a hint of Merlot. But that too is bilge water, for it should be blended with a wine that makes the tip of your tongue tingle and doesn't give you heartburn, but yet is strong and goes down smoothly. You know, Reb Chaim, you know what I want, the one I bought last year, remember? Such are the remarks Chaim Chassid hears the days before Pesach, and not just from one man. He hears it from 10, 20, 50 of the town's Jews at the same time. For all of them postpone getting their 4 cups until the last possible day, the final hour, the last minute. And no matter how much Chaim scolds them for shopping so late, it helps like cupping helps a corpse. It just doesn't sink in. You're absolutely right, they say, but continue to do what they've done in the past. On this day, neither Chaim Mova, which is his wife, or her daughters work in the cellar alone. Chaim Chassid himself joins them along with his son-in-law, who we met a few pictures ago. One pours wine, one washes bottles, one offers samples. A veritable racket encompasses the cellar, shouts, noise, tumult. One customer's order was mixed up. He got the wrong bottles of wine, the one that didn't pay, another bottle broke, and he stands there, his fingers around the corked glass neck, asking, what should I do now? Another customer yells, give me 2 liters of the kind I got last year, and one from 2 years ago, but a little stronger. This is from a book called Moshkele the Thief by Shalom Aleichem, the great playwright from Pereyaslav, Ukraine, born in 1859, died in 1916. It is too much to tell all the stories about this wonderful Mark Twain of the Jewish world writer. But we will go, that is what I just read is part of one of his wonderful books. As a matter of fact, it is a book that was rediscovered not too long ago. So let's begin the journey. Let's begin the journey. The Passover meal. We are going to do Kadesh now. We leave the normal life behind and transpose ourselves into a world of holiness. The first step towards freedom with a blessing over the first cup of wine with our first guest from Morocco.
אלה מועדי אדוני מקראי קודש, אשר תקראו אותם במועדם. סברי מרנן, ברוך אתה אדוני, אלוהינו מלך העולם. בורא פרי הגפן, ברוך אתה אדוני, אלוהינו מלך העולם. אשר בחר בנו מכל עם, ורוממנו מכל לשון, וקידשנו במצוותיו. ותיתן לנו אדוני אלוהינו באהבה, שבתות למנוחה, ומועדים לשמחה, חגים וזמנים לששון, את יום השבת הזה, את יום חג המצות הזה, את יום טוב מקרא קודש הזה, זמן חירותנו באהבה מקרא קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים. כי בנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים, שבתות ומועדי קודשך, באהבה וברצון, בשמחה ובששון, הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני, מקדש השבת בישראל והזמנים. ברוך אתה אדוני, אלוהינו מלך העולם, שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה.
That was so beautiful. Now we present, not just yet, we'll eat a little later, but this is what we can eat before, maybe pick from some of these plates, the vegetables and the fillings, while we continue to recite this wonderful Seder. This is urchatz. This is with the idea of purification, as the priest did in the Beit HaMikdash, the holy temple. One pours the water 3 times to cover one's right hand, and then the same for the left hand. Karpas, dipping the vegetable into salt water. Most Seder plates today use parsley or celery. That symbolizes the arrival of springtime and new life. It also represents the initial settlement and flourishing of the Israelites during their first years in Egypt. And this is so many celebrants can taste the hope of new birth, along with the bitter tears of the Israelite slaves. Yachatz. So we take hold of the middle of the 3 matzahs on your Seder plate, break it in 2, leave the smaller half between the 2 complete matzot. The piece that remains on the Seder plate is the poor man's bread, over which the tale of our slavery is recited. Poor people only eat a small part of the bread. They need to save the rest in case tomorrow there is none. You break the remaining larger piece into 5 pieces and wrap them in a cloth. And then you hide the package until the end of the Seder, when it will be eaten as the afikoman, or desserts. And now for the Magid, the telling of the story of Israel leaving Egypt. This is what it's all about. This is why it's called a Haggadah, a telling. Now we get to the meat and potatoes of the Seder our souls are longing for. As for the meat and the potatoes that our stomach is longing for, we can probably smell them simmering in the kitchen. Hold on, we'll get there. During the Magid portion of the Passover Seder, participants retell the story of the Exodus, Shemot, of the Exodus actually from Egypt. The Magid begins with the uncovering and lifting of the matzah on the Seder plate, on the Seder table, and the recitation of Halach Ma'anya. The words of Halach Ma'anya are written in Aramaic, and it begins with the statement that this is the bread of affliction that our ancestors ate in Egypt. Unfortunately, slavery and persecution still exists. Look at the world today, and we see horrific examples of that every single day. This recitation, Halach Ma'anya, is based on Deuteronomy 16, chapter 16, verse 3, which says, "You shall eat unleavened bread, bread of ani, distress, for you departed from the land of Egypt quickly." And the recitation serves as the first official explanation for matzah in the Haggadah. It also shows the importance of opening one's home to the poor and sharing one's meals with them, because it is through such generosity that one can aspire to something more than a normal life and a sense of redemption. Our next guest, Moshe Oisher, born in 1906 in Bessarabia, passed away in New Rochelle, was one of the most interesting cantors probably of the 20th century, incredible voice. Also did a wonderful, he acted in Yiddish theater, and we probably need a whole other lecture on him. Great entertainer. He starred in Yiddish films. He signed a contract with the Fortune Gallo to perform several roles at the Chicago Opera Company. Ha Lachma Anya, Moshe Oisher.
Lishana Babi Yarat Israel, Lishana Babi Yarat Israel, Ashata Bidi Lishana Babi Yachol.
And we get another version of Halachma Anya for another Moroccan guest of ours. Let's listen a little to that.
בבילו יצאנו ממצרים על החמעניה בני חורין בבילו יצאנו ממצרים על החמעניה בני חורין הלחמעניה יאכלו אבהתנה בערעד מצרים קל דכפין יתה ויכול קל דצריך יתה ויפסח השטח לשנה הבאה בערעדי ישראל השטח עבדם לשנה הבאה בערעדי ישראל בני חורין.
All we can say after hearing our Moroccan friends sing is Kilo Na'eh, Kilo Ya'eh, for God's praise is due, God's praise is fitting. There are some guests I would like to introduce with a song. And this is a very beautiful film that I found on the internet. And it talks about slavery. And let us just listen to the inversion of what we know this country's history is and how it is treated.
Well, brothers and sisters, once again, we're going to have a little entertainment. I guess I don't have to tell you what it is. The sheet kind of gives it away. And once again, brothers and sisters, we're going to share our pleasure with some neighbors less fortunate than ourselves. Won't you please clear the first 3 pews so they may have seats? And when they get here, I'm going to ask you once more, neither by word, nor by action, nor by look, to make our guests feel unwelcome, nor draw away from, or act high tone. For we is all equal in the sight of God. Amen. And he said, let him who is without sin cast the first stone. Yeah. The chain shall be struck from them, and the lame shall leap, and the blind shall see, and glory is give our guests a little welcome. When Israel was in Egypt land, that mighty one oppressed so hard they could not stand. Let mighty one go down, Moses. Then Israel out of Egypt came. On the left of the crowd oppressed the land.
Let my people go. And we move on. Manishtana, Manishtana. You do remember the first time you were called to recite these 4 questions. And so begins the transmission of the tradition, the Higadata Levincha, and you shall tell this historical tale from one generation to the next. This text is certainly among the oldest in the Haggadah. The questions appear almost word for word as we know them today in the oldest sections of the Babylonian Talmud, Seder, Moed, Mishnah, Pesachim. The answers to the 4 questions and the historic 5th question are: 1, we eat only matzah because our ancestors could not wait for their bread to rise when they were fleeing slavery in Egypt, and so they were flat when they came out of the oven. 2, we eat only maror, a bitter herb, to remind us of the bitterness of slavery that our ancestors endured while in Egypt. The first dip, green vegetables in salt water, symbolizes the replacement of our tears with gratitude, and the second dip, maror in charoset, symbolizes the sweetening of our burden of bitterness and suffering. The 4th question, we recline at the Seder table because in ancient times, a person who reclined at a meal was a free person, while slaves and servants stood. And 5, and this is the question that is not normally with us, we eat only roasted meat because that is how the Pesach, Passover lamb, is prepared during sacrifice at the temple in Jerusalem. Ma nishtana halayla hazeh mikol haleilot. Why is this night different from all other nights? So in the Eastern European cheder, in the classroom, the Melamed, the teacher, would call out to his students in a study mode, a sing-song chant of only a few pitches. And the traditional Ashkenazic music for the 4 questions is a chant known as the Lernensteiger. It's kind of a sing-song melody. It resembles the method used to chant Talmudic passages in traditional yeshivot. Students, bochrim, were always encouraged to ask a good question, and this is most likely why the 4 questions use this melody. Today, many children use a more popular Israeli originated melody. Whatever melody or text that your family may use, don't feel limited to the traditional questions. The Seder is a pretty good time to delve into one's Jewish heritage with any question you want. So anyway, the prevailing use of this Lernensteiger or study mode as a device for memorizing the Talmudic text is in this song. So once learned by the students in the classroom, the same melody finds its way into the home and becomes a really important integral part of the Seder ritual. Ma nishtana halayla hazeh mikol halelot shebechol halelot anu ochlin hametz umatzah halayla hazeh kulan kulo matzah. And that's the kind of, if you, and how do I ask this question to you? I don't know the answer for it. And if I do answer the question, you will answer it, or something like that. Okay. So I have a friend, a really sweet friend by the name Eli Schleifer. He was, I don't know if he's teaching at HUC anymore in Jerusalem, but some of my friends might know. He's a really wonderful musicologist. And has been, I don't know if he still is, a director of the Jerusalem-based first-year cantorial program at Hebrew Union College. Sings this Ma nishtana in Yiddish. Let's give it a listen.
Ma nishtana, arba kushiyot, benusach Ashkenaz, tchila, benusach pashut. Kadech, will you fragen die vier Kashes? Ma nishtano halaylo hazeh mikol halaylois, שבכל הלילות אנו אוכלים חומץ ומצות, הלילה הזה כולו מצות. שבכל הלילות אנו אוכלים שאור ירוקויס, הלילה הזה כולו מורוי. שבכל הלילות אין אנו מטבילין אפילו פעם אחת, הלילה הזה שתי פעמים. שבכל הלילות אנו אוכלים בין יושבין ובין מסובין, הלילה הזה כולנו מסובין.
Professor Schleifer also says that the real melody was written for Ma nishtana by a gentleman by the name Ephraim Abilea in 1936, not that long ago, for some of us, not that long ago. He was born in Russia in 1881. Prior to relocating to Palestine, he was known as Leo Nesvitsky and was known to have been among the founders of the Society for Jewish Folk Music in St. Petersburg. And as some of you know, I am powerfully attracted to that music by those composers who wrote those songs. In fact, he was one of 3 representatives to present and win the case for the legalization of that society in the November of 1908. And by the way, just for added understanding of that society, a composer, Rimsky-Korsakov, was very much in favor. We have to mute, ladies and gentlemen. We have to mute because I can't hear it when I'm talking over people talking. So Rimsky-Korsakov was on the side. He wanted this to go forward because he was very interested in Jewish music. According to a 1982 interview with Abilea's brother, his brother was about 96 in 1982, Ari Abilea, the brothers, filled with Zionism, they left Russia, came to Israel by way of Egypt in 1922. Their father was a Chazan, and thus the rather strong knowledge of the study modes would have been part of their upbringing. And it was emerged in their compositions, maybe subliminally or consciously. By the way, he writes a little-known oratorio called Chag HaCherut, Festival of Freedom, written and performed only once in Haifa, and I would love to get a copy of that score. in 1936 tells the Passover story. And by the way, this is the Abileas, Ephraim, to your left, Thega, mother, obviously you know the mother, Ari, and Baruch. Moving on. This is Abileas from his oratorio, Hag HaCherut, the melody that he composes for Manishtana. Manishtana halayla hazeh, mikol haleilot, shebechol haleilot anu ochlim, hametzu matzah, halayla hazeh, kulo matzah, halayla hazeh, kulo matzah. Now, that's not exactly what the melody is known now, and this is on the bottom of the screen. If we can see under the title Israel Sings, they sing something like this, not Manishtana, it's Manishtana. This may be the melody that most of us know. And in boxes, you can see the difference with the notes. The Israeli melody goes Manishtana halayla hazeh, mikol halelot, instead of mikol halelot. So mikol halelot, halayla hazeh, kulo matzah, halayla hazeh, kulo matzah. And that's really the melody that has stayed with our ears. He passes away, Ephraim, in 1953, but his musical legacy as passed down from one father to his son, from one mother to her daughter, the Higadat Levincha, and you shall tell the historical tale from one generation to the next, lives on in us through the melody of Manishtana. So come on in. I just heard a knock on the door. These guys, they behave like kids. They're just a little older than kids. I know, just come on in and let's just sing. They want to sing something for us. Okay, let's see. Here we are. Open the door. Here they are.
Manishtana halayla hazeh, mikol halelot, shebechol halelot anu ochlim chametzu matzah, halayla hazeh, kulo matzah, halayla hazeh, kulo matzah, shebechol halelot anu ochlim she'ar yirakot, halayla hazeh, maror, halayla hazeh, maror, shebechol halelot einanu mapilin, afilu pam echad, halayla hazeh, shetefet ami, halayla hazeh, shetefet ami, shebechol halelot anu ochlim, v'yoshvinu v'mesubin, halayla hazeh, kulanu mesubin, halayla hazeh, kulanu mesubin.
And why don't we get out the vacuum cleaner, because all that breaking of the matzah, who knows what the floor looks like now. Come on in. We're inviting everybody to the Seder. I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Eliyahu Bonamo. He wants to sing his version from the kitchen. He's helping prepare our meal. So if it's okay, he'll sing from there. This is Mr. Bonano. Can you sing your version of Manishtana?
Cuánto fue demudada la noche la esta, más que todas las noches, que en todas las noches nosotros no untamos a filo una vez, y la noche la esta dos veces. Que en todas las noches nosotros comemos james o matzá, y la noche la esta todo es masá, que en todas las noches nosotros comemos restos de vidruras, y la noche la esta todo es lechuga, que en todas las noches nosotros comemos y bebemos, tanto asentados y tanto a descordados, y la noche la esta somos todos a descordados.
And you know, as you can tell, we invite everybody to the Seder from all over the world. By the way, the next piece I'd like to, people I'd like to invite are some boys from Jerusalem, the Jerusalem Boys Town Choir. This is the Hisha Amda, which is a short passage in the Haggadah that deals with saving the people of Israel by Hashem, God, from all God's enemies. It's customary to read that passage in a melody, and today it is also found as a piyut on its own. And it is the Torah that has stood by our ancestors and for us. For not only one enemy has risen up against us to destroy us, but in every generation they rise up to destroy us. But the Holy One, blessed be He, delivers us from His hands. And we have another group of boys that will sing this for us. Wonderful children, wonderful kids. That was beautiful. Um, Memory and action, that's the goal. On Passover, there are stories and rituals to remember and then to retell that narrative of our collective liberation. We share these stories so that they are remembered through all the generations as a story of deliverance from slavery, freedom. In Hebrew, Egypt is called Mitzrayim, which means a narrow place. So the process of Exodus, moving from a narrow place to a place of freedom, and this is a quote from Martin Luther King Jr., no one is free until we all are free. And the big question is, how can we move from that narrow place to a place where we are all free? How many and what kind of plagues do we have now in our present time? Racism, greed, nationalism, disease, climate change. Abadim hayinu lefaro b'Mitzrayim, ata b'nei chorin. We were slaves to Pharaoh in Egypt. Now we are free. Our next guest is a wonderful leader of song. Debbie, why don't you sing now?
עבדים היינו, היינו, אתה בני חורין, בני חורין. עבדים היינו, אתה בני חורין. עבדים היינו, אתה בני חורין, בני חורין. אתה בני חורין, בני חורין. עבדים היינו, היינו, אתה בני חורין, בני חורין. עבדים היינו, אתה בני חורין. עבדים היינו, אתה בני חורין, בני חורין. אתה בני חורין, בני חורין. עבדים היינו, היינו, אתה בני חורין, בני חורין. עבדים היינו, אתה בני חורין. עבדים היינו, אתה בני חורין, בני חורין. אתה בני חורין, בני חורין.
Well, enough. It would have been enough. It is a song traditionally sung during the telling of the story of the Exodus at the Passover Seder. This song's stanzas display the many wonderful life-affirming deeds God performed for the Jewish people during and after the Exodus. Ends with each stanza the word Dayenu. It would have been enough. Before Dayenu, we dip our finger in our wine cup and put it on a plate next to the wine cup. And these are the 10 plagues: blood, dam, frogs, tzfardea, vermin, kinim, beasts, arov, cattle disease, dever, boils, shechin, hail, barad, locusts, arbe, darkness, choshech, and the 10th, slaying of the firstborn, makat bechorot. Dayenu. It would have been enough.
Dayenu,
The conductor is Benjamin Schechter, and he's a really wonderful. I met him when he was in the Zamir choir with Mati Lazar many years ago, and he works very hard, specifically with Yiddish choral music. And he's a real pleasure to know, and wonderful music to hear. I want to do two psalms. Obviously, Hallel is represented in the music of the Haggadah. The two psalms we'll try today are Psalm 113 and 114. 113 is by the wonderful and underrated composer Yechezkel Bran, who can be considered a representative of the generation of Israeli composers following that of Paul Ben Chaim and Mark Lavry, who was born in Breslau at that point, actually in Germany then, and now in Poland because of the porous borders. 2 years later, his parents immigrate to Palestine. He begins his music studies at the Israel Academy of Music with Alexander Boscovich, which is a composer I'd love to talk about at a later time. He also has a master's degree in classics, Greek and Latin philology at the Tel Aviv University. Works a lot with Gregorian chant. Obviously, he passed away in 2014, but a wonderful composer of choral music. Here is Psalm 113. This beautiful piece. I want to now talk about Psalm 114. Psalm 114. This is by the great the great cantor of the 20th century, possibly. One of the really greats, Cantor Leib Glantz, born in 1898 in Kiev, Ukraine. Here's a statement by him, by a great cantor who writes about Leib Glantz. We have 300 cantors in the United States, writes fellow cantor David Reutman. But if the truth be told, there is only one Leib Glantz. And only Glantz has such a great sensitivity in the art of Chazanut. Indeed, Glantz can justifiably be considered the most profound, as well as the most musically original, inventive of all the great cantors and cantor composers of the 20th century. Now, we don't have the time in this short lecture to speak more about Leib Glantz. And there's so much more to be said. Maybe we can do a whole lecture just on his music. And that would be something that I would be so happy and honored to do. By the way, just that everybody knows, we have his son on our little lecture here today, Jerry Glantz. It's just Jerry Glantz, it's really wonderful to see you. I just also want to say that we have another wonderful, one of the great cantors of my lifetime, Benny Meisner, also on this program. I'm going to ask Benny if he can give a lecture next Monday, same time. I'm going to try to get more people to come, many more people to come. He is a wonderful, wonderful lecturer. And what I want him to do is talk about Hallel, specifically these group of songs, this group of psalms with regard to, that's what we sing on Pesach, on Passover. So we will talk about that later. But I now want to take you to Psalm 114, composed by the great Leib Glantz. It was done in a concert a number of places, the last time in Hanover in Germany with orchestra and chorus over there. So this is Psalm 114. What I'd like you to do is notice the expansiveness of the melody, the tremendous expansiveness. And if I can be so bold, in the orchestra, I tried to give, I orchestrated it, so I tried to give a kind of a feeling of the children of Israel trudging out of Egypt. Here we go, let's try this. Psalm 114. By the way, this is an excerpt of a much longer a piece that really takes you through the whole psalm. Just to let you know, we're trying for more performances in this country. Maybe we can do it in West Hartford or Hartford and other cities around the area. But I think I'm not, it's a little awkward for me to say because I did the orchestrations and stuff, but I think it's a really, really worthwhile project. And every day I feel stronger about it. It is a part of the reasoning for this. It includes the very powerful excerpts from the memoir Night from Elie Wiesel, and the combination of the two, I think, creates a very a powerful plea for, out of many things, for the elimination of hatred in the world. So we move on. We finished with the Hallel area, and now we are ready for our second cup of wine. We drink that. We will skip the blessing. Rochza, we wash our hands for the meal. Transcend and purify. Yes, again, we wash our hands. We washed it at the beginning, and we wash it again. Rise higher, then draw that into deeds. Rise higher again. Never stop rising higher. Never stop applying ourselves. Pour the water to cover our right hand. Repeat again. Ditto for the left hand. Say the blessing. Baruch atah Adonai, blessed are you, our God, King of the world, who has sanctified us with his commandments and commanded us concerning the washing of the hands. B'tilat yadayim. Obviously, we have to dry our hands because the next thing is our motzi matzah. We say the blessings of the matzah. We grab all the three. Remember, we divided them: the top one, the broken middle one, and the bottom one. Pick them up a little. Say, "Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the world, hamotzi lechem min haaretz, who brings the bread from the earth." Then we grab the maror, some of that bitter herb, enough to make the size of a small egg. If you would crunch it into a ball. Some have the custom of using both horseradish and romaine lettuce. You can actually use either, one or another is okay. Shake drop the bitter herb into the charoset, which is my favorite part of the Seder, I have to say. I'm wondering how people make it. I actually make my own charoset. I'm the one that does it in my household, which actually that might be the one dish I do fairly well. But it's a kind of a careful balance. You kind of want bitter herb, but you want to sweeten it a little. I know it's not this sandwich is not meant to be a sumptuous, hors d'oeuvre kind of thing, but you can absolutely try that later at the meal with the charoset. We'll get there. Don't worry, we'll get there. Say the blessing, blessed be you, who commanded us concerning eating bitter herbs. The next thing is the korech, sandwich of bitter herbs. Hi, Sally. That's our guest, Sally Cohen. She's a wonderful kid. And you can see with the shmura matzah that she has. So this is korech, what we break the two pieces from the bottom matzah, take an olive-sized volume of that bitter herb again, place it in between those two pieces, mix in the horseradish and the lettuce, and we got our korech. Now the matzah and the charoset. Now we can really eat the matzah and the charoset. Say the words. This is what Hillel did, Rabbi Hillel. At the time that the temple stood, he wrapped some Pesach lamb, some matzah, some bitter herbs, and ate them together. And I am sure that was a sumptuous meal. And now we get to the Shulchan Orech, the festive meal, and we still have to. Wait, hold on one second. Oh, I hear a knock on the door. Look. I thought I heard the knock on the door, but let's start eating. We have gefilte fish. We have chicken soup and matzah balls, all kosher for Pesach. We have coconut. I can't read what I wrote. Coconut crusted chicken fingers. 1 second, I have to move this thing. We might as well eat the food. This is for our meals. For those of you who like red meat, some of us are red meat eaters. We have red wine braised short ribs with prunes recipe. Algerian meat patties for Passover, because we have to have some a kind of not only Ashkenazic food, but we have from all over. We have invited everybody for this Pesach Seder. And here, obviously everybody means there are some of us that are not meat eaters. So we have a roasted butternut squash with orange tahini, walnuts, and za'atar. By the way, if anyone want recipes call me up later and I'll give you the recipe for it. Now, in deference to stuffed cabbage, I love stuffed cabbage because that is really what my mother used to make. One of the dishes on Pesach, stuffed cabbage with beef in it is wonderful. It's a Ukrainian. This one is a Ukrainian stuffed cabbage. Okay, there's on the knock on the door. We welcome our friend Cantor Gideon Zellemeyer into our party. Listen, Gideon, I know you davened at the shul, but could you be a little less former at the Seder? Please. That's better, but let's even relax a bit more. That's more like it. That's more like it with a shirt. That's good. I would like maybe while people are eating, we could sing a duet while everybody's partaking of the meal. What do you think? Yeah, that's a good idea. The duet is Haggadah, and it's by Zavel Zilberts, a wonderful composer of Jewish liturgical music. And Gideon and I, if you don't mind, will sing this duet, Haggadah. I'm the lower voice. Okay, so that was the Haggadah. And let's just go to the little desserts afterwards. Now we have our chocolate covered matzah, a recipe from Odessa, and Ukrainian macaroons with the blue and yellow. We have toffee matzah. I was going to go into deeper conversation about this, but we want to end this chat in the next few minutes. Salted caramel macaroons, matzah tiramisu, which is very interesting, and chocolate macaroon cake. And now we have the tzafun eating the afikoman, where the child of the house hides the afikoman, and then the adult is supposed to try to find it, and obviously does not, and then gives the child a wonderful present for showing her where the afikoman is. And we eat of the afikoman, the varech, the grace after meals. Everybody gathers together singing, and this is where much of Hallel is recited, and so much more with various songs. We have the third cup of wine. Very quickly, I'll only give you just an opening part of this. Is our friend Richard Tucker, who has joined us for the third Kiddush cup. I'm going to cut it off. You see the guy conducting, by the way? That's a guy by the name of Sholem Sekunda, a Ukrainian-born conductor and composer. Really wrote a tremendous amount of synagogue music, and he's actually a child cantor, but he's mostly known for his contributions to synagogue music and Jewish song. Just a wonderful, wonderful, I don't want to say, I'm going to say character, a wonderful composer who contributed so much. So we're going to move on to our fourth cup now, and we have Richard Tucker's rival and I believe brother-in-law. I think they married two sisters, and this is Jan Pierce. He's both of these guys, by the way, are American-born. I'm almost 100% sure. Jan Pierce, by the way, was Toscanini's favorite singer, and Toscanini wrote that down. That was his favorite singer to work with. And let's just give this is the fourth cup, Kiddush, Jan Pierce. By the way, so both these kiddushim, by the way, last about 8 minutes each. I mean, we just take 25 seconds to get out of the way. It's late at night. It's already 3 a.m. for Pete's sake. So we want to get to bed, and we have other things to do. Get ready for services tomorrow. But obviously Jan Pierce with that gorgeous high note. He doesn't only sing the high note. He sings the high note for about 3 minutes just to let us know that he can do it. I have a secret for you. The reason why he did that is because his brother-in-law Richard Tucker sang before, He just wanted to show that he could sing the high note a little longer. I'm sure of that. I'm sure of that. I'm sure of that. Now we move to the Eliyahu Hanavi. This is for Elijah's cup. Very quickly, we're going to move through the last few things. And I have a couple of surprises for you, then we're done. So you get the idea. We all know this famous melody. This is with the a choir from Philadelphia and their director. I find her to be, I don't know her personally, but she seems to be a very sensitive a musician, and I do like the work that she does. So that's inviting Elijah into our house. May he soon in our days come to us with the Mashiach, son of David. And we want to move on quickly. Just a comment about these Haggadot. The earliest, let's talk about Adir Hu, okay? The tune of Adir Hu has gone several variations over the years. The origin is from the German Minnesinger period. The earliest music for Adir Hu is from the 1644 Rittangel Haggadah, which you see here, 1644. The second was for the Haggadah Zevach Pesach, in 1677. I'm going to go quickly right now to finish. We can talk about these in more detail. The third and the closest form is found in the Selig Darmstadt Haggadah. In this Haggadah is from 1769. The song is not known as Adir Hu, it's known as the Baugesang, which means in German, the song of the rebuilding of the temple. Adir Hu is a hymn and probably the most famous melody of all of Pesach, that is sung mostly by Ashkenazi Jews worldwide at the Passover Seder. It's an acrostic and expressing hope that God will rebuild the Holy Temple speedily. Now, I have a number of versions of this, but we're going to go to the last one, which is with Daniel Mutlu and his son. And it's a really wonderful version for father and son. Adir Hu.
Adir Hu.
Now, obviously, the main
Happy
singer.
Passover, everybody.
I'm sorry for interrupting, Sasha. Actually, his name is Saya Mutlu. That is, by the way, just a comment on Dan Mutlu. I remember listening to the Psalm 114 in when of Leib Glantz. In that concert, Danny Mutlu is a singular talent, and he is the tenor that provides most of the recitatifs in that concert, and he's a major voice, and his son is probably going to take after him, obviously. So that was just a nice little thing. I'd like to end. I have some other thoughts about some other Echad Miodea. We will skip that for now. And obviously, Echad Gadya, many versions, Ofra Haza. Let's just listen to a little of that, and I'm going to end with one. Echad Gadya is an interesting poem because it's both Aramaic and Hebrew. Some of the, I'm told some of the grammar is not especially correct, but it's obviously remains one of our beautiful melodies from Pesach. So many examples of it, and I would like to end with this example of the son of Jacob Mendelsohn, his son Danny Mendelsohn. They both did a concert with me, a wonderful concert some years ago, and this is his son. And we end with this Echad Gadya. And with respect to the pandemic that we've had, so he did a kind of a thing where he's singing the three parts. And some of you may have seen this before, but I think it's fun. It's a fun way to end this program.
Echad Gadya, Echad Gadya, Echad Gadya, Echad Gadya. Zabinabo, 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 Echad Gadya, Echad Gadya. Zabinabo, Echad Gadya, Echad Gadya, Echad Gadya. Shudra de Yafran Gadya, Zabinabo, 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 Good Yontif, everybody.
Well, I say good job to do. By the way, one comment about that. That I said is Jackie Mendelssohn's son, and everything turns around on its own wheel. Jackie happens to be a wonderful friend of mine. They both are, and he is the one that recommended Danny Mutlu for the night project. So it all comes together in the end. B'shana haba'a b'Yerushalayim, amen. Do I hope I get there? It's in the soonest. Everyone, take care. Chag Sameach v'Kasher. And just remember, next Monday, we're going to try to have I'm going to try to get many more people to come to this thing for our wonderful Cantor Benny Meisner talking about Hallel. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Hak Pesach, Cantor.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank
Fabulous.
you
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Oh, see you later. This was
Thank you, Cantor.
I know you like brothers, but it's still an honor. What can I say?
Thank you, Joe.
A wonderful program, Cantor. Wonderful.